Hey, Bob Nolan here with Thought Provokers, not provoking, just trying to humbly figure out a few things. A few weeks ago, a good friend of mine was discovered lifeless by his wife in the back of their home. Apparently, a heart attack, not an old man. Soon after, there was a memorial service for him, a truly good person. Now, I wasn't there to inspect people, but I couldn't help but notice the different verbal expressions and even body language of the folks who came. Some to just pay their respects, some to be honorable to the family, but there were some there that were deeply grieving over the loss. Having been a preacher type for a lot of years, I've facilitated quite a few memorial services. It's one type of ceremony where you can kind of expect people to be listening. Generally speaking, they're grieving. Sometimes they're trying to make sense out of an untimely loss. And memories are flashing through their minds. At least I know that's been true for me. Memories plus loss. Isn't the combination of those two things the essence of grief? Maybe that's why most people hold their praises and accolades and appreciations and respects until after someone, even a loved one, has passed away. Because it's the loss that sparks the memories, and then the memories spark the sense of loss. Maybe it'd be good to do some praising and memory rehearsing toward your friend before he passes away. Of all the different emotions that can exist in the human soul, I think grief is probably the most rare. Grief can be deep and very painful, but for most of us, it's also quite unusual. If you're like me, you might believe that the one true God created everything. I believe that. Planets, humans, trees, the periodic table of elements. I think that would also include emotions. And not only did he create the emotions, he's experienced most of them. He laughs, he cries, he gets angry. He's got compassion sometimes. Sometimes he's sad or he makes judgments. He gets disgusted. One emotion that he seems to be impervious to would be fear. So let's leave fear out. I don't think God gets scared. We have emotions because we're created in God's image. He has emotions. So we have emotions. If you read through even just one of the four gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you'll see that Jesus, the human being, experienced all those emotions. I'm thinking especially, though, of the grief he experienced when one of his best friends, Lazarus, died. It says that he cried. He really felt the loss and probably thought about the memories. Of course, there was a happy ending because the teacher raised Lazarus from the dead. I haven't been able to pull that one off yet. Have you? You can do grief, the word grief, on a search engine and find a lot of good stuff. The stages of grief, the okayness of grief, even the importance of taking time to grieve. Lots of good stuff to be found. But I'm just expressing that grief is not a weakness or something to be avoided or pushed out of your soul. It's a legit emotion that has a purpose in your life. Speaking of God, he grieves. Here's an interesting line from a psalm. Precious in the eyes of the Lord is the death of his saints. Another translation reads, the death of the Lord's faithful is a costly loss in his eyes. I looked up that word precious. It can mean, in the Hebrew, rare, costly, valuable, priceless, expensive, words like that. It tells me that with all the billions of people that have died or will die, it's never a common, I don't care thing with God. He feels it. He notices it. He grieves. Of course, the death of an important person in your life is not the only kind of grief. There's lots of things and people over which we can experience loss plus memories. And don't tell me that Dad in heaven doesn't grieve or didn't grieve the way they treated and viciously murdered his number one son. Yeah, it was part of his eternal atonement plan. I get that. But it was also an evil human assassination. God grieves because he has had memories and has experienced loss. If it's okay for God to grieve, it's okay for you and me to grieve. So go ahead, indulge in it. It probably won't last forever, and it might even do us some good. Bob Nolan here with Thought Provokers, and you be careful out there.